What is your message now for your supporters inside Myanmar and also for viewers around the world?
We have to work together. That is the main message. Those inside the country have to work together, and also those of our supporters outside.
What do you plan to do next? Will you revive your party, the NLD?
We would like to form a network of people working for democracy, not just the NLD, but others who are interested in bringing about necessary change.
Do you plan to challenge the legitimacy of the elections recently held in Myanmar?
We didn't contest the elections, so we have nothing to do with the elections. But the NLD has formed a committee to look into allegations of fraud and all kinds of vote rigging, which you probably have heard of. And we're doing it in the name of the rule of law, not because we have anything to lose or gain, as we did not take part in the elections.
You're calling for investigation into those elections. Now, some Asian governments endorsed those elections, the governments of Vietnam and China. What do you have to say to them?
All we can do is to give them a copy of the report that we come up with. And they can study the report and decide for themselves how free and fair those elections were.
What is your feeling about the sanctions that are in place against Myanmar's military government? Should they remain in place?
This is something that we have to discuss. I want to know what the people feel about the elections. I want to know about the sanctions. I want to know what the experts feel about the sanctions. And I also want to know what those who impose the sanctions feel about them. We have to review the situation from time to time. This is something that we have done over the years, and we're going to do it again.
Now, in a speech you made on Sunday, you called for greater dialogue. Who will you be seeking to speak with?
Those who are in a position to do something to change the situation in Burma for the better.
Have you had any contact with General Tan Shui?
No.
If you did have contact with him, what would you say to him?
I think what we are looking for is dialogue. So I'm not just thinking of what I'm going to say to him. I think what we have to think about is what we have to say to each other.
What would be the issues that you'd bring up to discuss with one another?
There may be issues he wants to bring up, but the issues that I would like to bring up are those which I think would be relevant to the interests of Burmese people.
Okay, do you fear that you will be detained again?
Actually, I don't think about it. I may be detained again. After all, I've been in and out of house arrest several times over the last 2 decades. But I don't think about it particularly. I just do what I can do at the moment.
You've made a number of personal sacrifices during your political campaign, your time under house arrest. For example, you haven't seen your children over a decade. Will you see them soon?
I don't know. My younger son has asked for his visa and is waiting in Bangkok for one to come through, but we haven't heard anything yet. He hasn't been issued with a visa yet.
Your younger son, his name is Kim. I understand that you spoke with him on Saturday night. What was that conversation like?
Nice. My conversations with my sons are always nice.
I understand that you haven't met your grandchildren. When would you like to meet them?
I've met my older grandson and my older grandchild. I met him 10 years ago when he was very small.
Okay. And because you've spent the past 7 years continually under house arrest, so many people want to know, what was your time like? How did you spend your days?
I never have enough hours of the day. There were a lot of things I had to do. There's a house to be taken care of. There was a lot of reading to do. I had to listen to the radio for hours and hours every day to keep in touch with the rest of the world. So many things to do. There were never really enough hours in the day. I know that this will sound strange when I say that, well, there's so much to do, but that's the way it was.
And tell us more about during your time under house arrest. How did you maintain contact with the outside world?
As I said earlier, I listened to the radio very, very regularly. I did meet people from outside occasionally, especially since last year. I met my lawyers quite frequently, and then my doctors would come once a month.
I read in the newspaper, The Telegraph, saying that you plan to join Twitter to reach your supporters worldwide. That was a quote from your lawyer. Is that true?
Well, I was discussing this with some of our young people today, and they say that most young people in Burma prefer Facebook because it's easier for them. So I haven't yet decided whether it's going to be Twitter or Facebook or both.
We were just looking at your Facebook fan page, and you have over 250,000 fans. Are you at all surprised by your popularity outside your own country?
Oh, I didn't know that there were so many. I'm very grateful for any support that we receive, but I don't like to think of it as popularity. I like to think of it as support for what I'm doing.
Do you plan to travel outside your country to further your cause?
No, not outside my country, not yet. First, I've got to travel inside my country, but I hope to be able to travel outside in due course.
What do you want to accomplish first before you travel outside your country?
I want to see significant progress in the way of democratic practices and human rights.
Now, you are one of many individuals who have been imprisoned for their political activities in Myanmar. Estimates say about 2,200 dissidents have been imprisoned in Myanmar. What would you like to say to the world to remind people of not just your story, but their story as well?
Just very simply that what they are having to go through is much, much worse than what I had to go through. Life in prison is very different from life inside your own house. Even if you're under house arrest, it's much, much easier than being in prison. So whatever I went through was nothing compared with what those in prison are going through. So I would very much like everybody all over the world to work for the release of our political prisoners.
Again, the world is watching. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to our global audience?
Just what I said just now. Please don't forget our political prisoners. And also just to say thank you for everything you've done to help us.